Okay, welcome everyone. I am super excited to have Zia and Shari today with me. My name is Marie Thouin. I'm the author of What is Compersion? Understanding Positive Empathy and Consensually Non-Monogamous Relationships. I'm a compersion researcher and a relationship coach. And today I'm interviewing two of the wonderful women who were members of the Kerista community in the 70s and 80s, around the time where the word compersion was coined. So I'm going to ask them about the story of how the word compersion came into being. This is really interesting and important because many people ask me, like, where does the word compersion even come from? And today we are here with people who actually were witnesses to the creation of the word. So thanks for tuning in. And thank you and welcome, Zia and Shari.
Thanks for having
Aloha.
us, Marie.
Thank you.
Mhm. So before we dive into like the actual like story of how the word compersion came into being, I'd love to open the floor for each one of you to talk about yourself and how did you decide to join the Kerista? Like when did you decide to join Kerista? What was Kerista? Actually, I'll let you talk about what the commune was and a little bit about your experience there. So I don't know who would like to start.
You
I'll
want
start. I'll start.
to-
Yeah, I would say I grew up in a normal two adult, two child household in the suburbs of Chicago. And my parents didn't get along very well. So I kind of thought, there must be something else I want, better than a monogamous couple because that didn't look like it was doing so well. So yeah, when I was like 15, I just started fantasizing about what I want to do with my life when I grow up. And I thought, I really want to be with a group of friends. So and it was, let's see, when I was 15, it was 1973-ish or 72. It was like I kind of missed the whole 60s, but I was paying attention to it, and just thought, well, I'm going to join a hippie commune at some point. Just started to percolate in my brain, or a group of friends. I want to be with friends. I don't want to be in a couple.
Mm.
Um, so I went to college and I thought I was going to do a career track, but I got disenchanted with my career track. So I decided I was going to move to San Francisco
Of course.
from the East Coast. So I was on the East Coast.
Nice.
And then I came to the Haight-Ashbury neighborhood to live with a college friend of mine and lived in a shared household for about 9 months and went traveling and had lots of fun adventures. But I really started to look around for where are all the hippies? Where'd they go? This is 1979, 1980. And I was walking down Haight Street and I picked up a newspaper called The Storefront Classroom, which was published by the Kerista Community, and it had a picture of three women singing on it on the front page, and they looked really happy and really blissful. And I'm like, oh, I got to check these people out. So I
Uh-huh.
went to the storefront in the Haight-Ashbury that the commune had open to the public. Anyone could walk in, and it was just a few evenings a week where you just sit around and talk about what you want to do with your life. So I started doing that, and then I joined the commune 3 months later.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many people lived at Kerista at that time?
There were about 25 at the time. It was pretty, it had a vibrancy to it. There was a lot going on. There were businesses. There was video. Like the commune was really into videotaping.
Hmm.
I got interviewed right away out in Golden Gate Park. So,
Wow. Was
yeah.
that kind of like a mentality of like wanting to document and research, like this kind of social experiment?
Yeah, there was like a real like, yeah, we have to document this, and we had a cable access TV channel, San Francisco cable access, and so I think at the time that was being made into a weekly show for an hour on cable access. So
Oh, beautiful. Amazing. Thank you so much, Zia. So I'll ask Shari, what was your origin story of joining Kerista?
Well, I also grew up in, well, at first a traditional family. My parents got divorced when I was 12, so similar to Zia, it wasn't the idyllic um, situation. And I also remember too, ever since I was a little girl, like I hearing about marriage and like my friends talking about like, their like what a wedding would be like and just never I never thought it sounded fun. It sounded so scary to me, the idea of having to just be with one person. I mean, and I, even before I knew about sex or anything like that, it was just this idea of, but it would be more fun to be with a group of friends and,
Mhm. Mhm.
and just, I just never related to the fantasy, the little girl fantasy of romance and marriage and that whole scenario. And then when I was about 16, my best friend and I were identified as like hippie types, although the same thing as Zia, I kind of missed it a little bit. I was born in 1959. But I always thought it sounded really cool. And we were really into environmental stuff as well. And we would read the Mother Earth News, and I noticed in the Mother Earth News there were like classified ads for people that were interested in community and stuff like that. Um, and so we actually put an ad in the Mother Earth News saying that we were looking for community, and
Mm.
somebody from the commune sent us a couple of issues of Utopian Eyes, which was the other publication that the commune was publishing besides Storefront Classroom. And I
Mm.
was like, oh my God, it was describing polyfidelity. It was the first couple issues, I think, and it was describing polyfidelity. And I was like, oh my God, this is like exactly what I've always wanted.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Can you
and
define like what is polyfidelity?
So polyfidelity, the way it was described was like group marriage. So it was the idea of committed relationship, but with more than one person. And so that was the fidelity part. Now people use the term polyamory, and I like it. I like that the fact that the term has evolved because it gives it more flexibility. People have more choice and they can still have commitments, but it doesn't have to be where every single person in the group agrees on every other person, that whole
Mhm.
thing,
Mhm.
which it is one of the things that I think caused some problems and rigidity in Kerista. But
Mhm.
anyway, just the idea of committed relationships, but it could be with more than one person in a group and best friends with the women. So even if you're not gay or bi or whatever, you can have these super close. That was such a huge draw for me, the idea of being able to have super close relationships with other women. And then my friend and I were also really into environmental stuff, like reading the Mother Earth News, the idea of uh, ecological, even like back in the 70s, that's when Greenpeace was starting to be more active, and the environmental awareness was coming in. And the idea of communal living too, being more environmentally um, sound was a big draw for me as well. So anyway, that's how I found out about the community. Obviously, we didn't move to the commune when we were 16, but
Mhm.
but Um, my friend, when she was 18, she actually moved out there first. I
Mhm.
was back in Philly working at a food co-op, and we were writing to each other, and then I ended up going out to right before I turned 19, so
Wow.
pretty early on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask each one of you, like, what was your first impression? Like when you first moved into Kerista, like how did that potentially differ from what you imagined it would be, if you had any, picture, and what
Mhm.
surprised you? Maybe let's start with Zia.
Well, I was I was my image of how to navigate forming a group, that was a little more difficult than I thought. We had sort of a courtship process, so it was a little like funny, awkward, and I guess what surprised me was yeah, just that it wasn't like it wasn't romance at all. It was all very idealistic, which appealed to me. But um I guess, yeah, how to get in a group was difficult. And it took me like a few months to get comfortable with who did I want to be in a group with and how that whole process worked.
Mhm.
So when you were considering moving, like, and the integration process, like, would you be in relationship automatically with those 25 people?
No, we had family groupings. So within the 25, there were maybe three to four family groupings and then some single people. So there were people that weren't in a group yet, but interested in forming a group or interested in joining one of the groups. And so it was a whole dance of getting to know everybody that you see how you vibed with everybody. So that was a little bit like ooh, a lot of people to all of a sudden mingle with. So
Mhm.
Wow. It's like
yeah,
speed dating, but with
yeah,
groups rather than just like one person at a time. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right. Yeah, and so there were certain guys that were interested in me, and I wasn't sure if I was interested in them, and there were because I was hetero. Still, I was hetero the whole time I was in the commune, but yeah, then what friendships I was forming with certain women were very important. So it was interesting. It's a whole different type of relationship.
wow. So did you end up joining one of the small groups?
Yeah, I ended up. I'm trying to remember the first group I was in. It was a long time ago, but yeah, I was like, all right. I decided not to be so picky. All right. I decided, all right, this guy is maybe not the most attractive guy, but I like his spirit. I like, you know, and I'm willing to give it a try. So I think I sort of threw off the awkwardness at a given point and just dove in.
Wow, that's so
So
cool. Amazing. What about you, Sherry?
So, well, let's see. Your original question was about, was it like we thought it was going to be, or what surprised us?
Hmm.
Um, I mean, it is culture. It was a culture shock. I think it's important to get that. Um, we were interested in building a model of a cultural paradigm shift. So it was very different, I guess, from now where people are interested in polyamory and they're just individuals within society and they want to open their marriage or they want to do a triad and they're bisexual, whatever, it was way beyond polyfidelity was part of it, but it was this idea of building a communal, um, a voluntary socialist cultural context. And within that, there would be, the idea of these non-monogamous families.
Mm-hmm.
And so, joining the commune was, um, there was a lot of ideology connected to it, and certain values and beliefs about how people, and it was never the idea that everybody, and we weren't so crazy or naive that we thought everybody in the world was going to live this way. But we had this idea that if a small percentage of the population made that shift toward communal living, um, that would have an impact on different things about the economy, about poverty, about the environment, as well as giving people more options for how to do relationships, right? But at the same time, having this larger vision and all these values and ideas, and the fidelity part of the polyfidelity, where there's these specific closed groups, as Zia was saying, it's like it wasn't very romantic, and it was more a little bit more idealistic, ideological, and that can have, in the positive sense, it was wow, you know, the culture that we're coming out of has got a lot of problems, so that isn't like a rah 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 situation.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, um, having this very specific ideology with all these beliefs and trying to build this larger thing, that can put pressure on people to conform or to not always say everything they're feeling. Um, Join a group. Maybe you're attracted to some of the people, but not all of the people, and that can create tensions and problems and issues, right? So, and I still don't know the answer to this question. How do groups of people collaborate, cooperate, build a new kind of society, and not have any level of cultiness to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, it's hard. And so that was, I think, a theme and a struggle through the whole thing. And of course, when joining, I worried about that. There were people in the commune who had stronger personalities than other people. I was a little taken aback by that, the dynamics of it all. But then I was also swept away with all the idealism and the aversion to the alternatives.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. And,
Gosh.
and also I wanted to go to college and be a scientist, and the commune was like, "Oh, we're the University of Utopia." We're we're doing um and which had some validity to it. The traditional academic world has a lot of BS in it, you know. Um, but anyway, there was that too. So
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of conflicted feelings about, what kind of career did I want, or did I want to really devote my whole life to this? But the temptation of feeling like I was working on building a model of something better won for a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of years. So,
Yeah. I can really feel the tension, like from what you're saying between kind of like the wanting to be authentic in like an individual way or wanting to build a more authentic group cohesion, like versus kind of like the model that is mainstream and that we're all kind of born and socialized into. And the idea
mhm.
of having a community based on more authentic values, but that kind of requiring sort of like a maybe abandoning some of our individual preferences.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, and the play of those, how do you reconcile those conflicts, right? So,
Right, right. Because like in a very individualistic paradigm or society, it's like, like there's emphasis on like freedom for each individual. I'm gonna eat what I want when I want. I'm gonna go to bed when I want. I don't have to worry about other people as much if I'm just gonna be isolated in my own little box. So you could say, it gives you more individual freedom, more authenticity, but if you're in a community where you want to build the kind of life and the kind of society that you really want based on communal values, then yeah, like you kind of renounce some of that. And I can imagine the conflict for someone who wants to be radically authentic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, and I think humans probably have been struggling with that for, it's not, you wasn't unique to us.
Yeah.
I mean, even in traditional society, I mean, women have been dealing, dealing with that forever. And in so many even couple relationships, some of those dynamics still exist. So yeah, how do people cooperate, collaborate, um, and be individually authentic and have, you know, figure out where their values align and can build on that and still having maximum authenticity individually. So yeah.
Absolutely. Such a good question. So I'm curious to dive a little bit more into the polyamory aspect and also the compersion aspect and the emergence of the word.
Mm.
So maybe before we go into like the emergence of the word itself, like I'm curious to hear more about like how was polyamory or polyfidelity at that stage sort of organized or how did it look like and what were the emotional dynamics that you observed? Like was there mostly a lot of compersion between people, or was there a lot of jealousy and envy and competition? Like, what did you observe even, prior to the word being coined?
Well, let's see. It seemed pretty much compersion was the norm. Jealousy was the exception, I would say. I didn't notice much jealousy until maybe a year or two in when there were some intrigues, but it was mostly pretty clearly compersion oriented. Um, I just remember feeling like I was in a test tube, right? I'm doing something completely different than I've heard about, relationships should be. So I just sort of tossed away like old thoughts and nothing, as Sherry said, was romantic. So I was in this like kind of idealistic oriented relationship where we all were on the same page, on the same ideals, and we saw what we were doing as being on a frontier. So we had this frontier mindset. We're going to try to grow this. So we had a lot of just positive thoughts of what we were doing, and jealousy really I think was discouraged in that way, is that we we really talked about everything. We would have these long sessions, dissecting every little problem that came up. So there was a lot of communication. I think that really kind of made it everything was in the open. There was nothing that was a secret.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You sort of just put everything on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that really set the context for compersion, is that we were all like we're building something together, we're on this social experiment of sorts. So
Like you were literally all on the same team.
Hmm.
To me, one of the pillars of what compersion is, it's about feeling like you're on the same team with other people. And
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, wow. And what about you, Shari? What did you observe as part of the non-monogamous dynamics?
Yeah. So, for me, the friendships with the women, other women were so primary. Like, um, I think I don't know how much this is talked about inside of the polyamory world now. I think there's phrases like kitchen table polyamory, or, where you're friends with, how close are you to the other people that the people you're sleeping with are sleeping with, and all of that. In our context, I, in a lot of ways, there were times, I mean, we're talking about many years, right? And different configurations and ins and outs of relationships and stuff like that. But just generally speaking, over the years, um, a lot of times I felt the closest to my female friends, or my
Mhm.
female, we called it starling sisters and starling brothers. I
Mhm.
can't remember where we got that term, but anyway. Um, so for me, the compersion aspect was related to that a lot. It would be like the secure, if all the women like all the men that I like, then whew, all right, the group is stable. But there
Mm.
did come a time when, at least in the group that I was in, that, as Zia said, there were some intrigues or whatever. There were some of the women s- seemed to be feeling, I don't know if it was jealous as much as it was just a desire, having romantic feelings and preferences for certain, some of the men, and wanting to, having a pull to be in a couple relationship, right? And when those kinds of dynamics would happen, um, then that's when I personally would feel terrible, you know. And I don't know if it was like possessive jealousy, right? It was more like insecurity and maybe like hurt or a sense of betrayal, like
Mhm.
um um those types of feelings. Because jealousy, to me, when you say jealous, it makes me think, oh, I want this person for myself. It's more of a possessive feeling. And it was more like, I want these women to want all these guys with me together, like we're
Yeah.
so anyway, so that those kinds of dynamics did happen, and but also I also observed a tremendous amount of compersion, not just, my own feelings, but just um my female partners seeming to be very happy for me and each other around, and like we had a lot of fun, like talking about the guys,
Mhm. Mhm.
with each other, or plotting around how to get somebody into the group, or and doing that as more of a cooperative effort than just like one person, kind of thing. So those are some of my happiest memories, and really, I don't think I've ever felt closer to any people ever
Mm.
uh, than that. Now, if you talk to some of them now who are in traditional couple relationships, some with people they met in the commune, they may say something very different than what I'm saying, but um, yeah, that was my experience. And I also have had the experience now post commune of people saying things about what they were feeling at the time in the commune that I'm like, well, maybe I'm neurodivergent and I just didn't pick up on that stuff,
Mm.
And I do think I'm a little neurodivergent, by the way, and I never. was really like girly romantic in some of the senses um
Mhm.
that I think some of the other people I know are. So that might be a factor too in me describing my own experience. I don't know. So,
Like maybe people who have more of that kind of girly romantic orientation, which is, oftentimes associated more with kind of the mainstream romanticism, would have
mhm.
had potentially a harder time or would have had like, yeah, just like more difficult emotions being part of a group and sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting about that is, yes, totally could understand that. And it's interesting to juxtapose my own memories of how we were with each other, and what they might say now. So there's also, I think, everyone, and me, myself included, um, this is the way the neuroscience of memory works, right? We look through our current lens of experience onto our past, and memory has actually been proven to be a dynamic thing rather than a static, like you took a video of how you were back then and you remember it exactly how it is. There's a subjectivity and there's a different perspectives that happen over time and where you are in life right now and all of that. So when I talk about my memory of what it was like back then, I'm talking about it also through the lens of that experience, whereas someone who didn't, who's doing something different than I'm doing might look back on it a different way, like, oh my God, I was always so conflicted and I was never happy and you know.
Mhm. Oh,
Yeah,
fascinating.
one of the women in our texting group, when we're talking to you about compersion came up, she's like, "Yeah, I never really felt compersion, and I was sort of neutral. I was in the neutral state." So I'm like, "Oh, that's an interesting." So yeah, you'll get different. We're more of the pro compersion contingent.
That's good. No wonder I met you at my book launch.
Well, I think it's one of the best things to have come out of the commune is the word. I'm like,
Uh,
well, I think we need to set the record straight of where the word came from.
Yeah.
So that was what motivated me to reach out to you. So yeah.
Beautiful. So yeah, like that's a great segue into like let's talk about the story of how the word came into being. How was it born? How was the word compersion born?
You want to take that, Sherry, since you did a lot of the board sessions. So
Okay. Sure, yeah. And again, there'll be different perspectives on the board, the alphabet board and what was really behind it. But so yeah, we did have a tradition in the commune of using an alphabet board. And yes, I was one of the people that did it a lot.
Mhm.
And my perspective on, I mean, we had some people really promoted the idea that it was something maybe a little bit supernatural, not dead spirits, not like a Ouija board, um, but some kind of channeling of something outside of ourselves, maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe it was, who knows? But I saw it more like almost like a kinetic or kinesthetic or whatever the word is,
Mhm.
brainstorming, what form of brainstorming, because it was usually me and a few of the other women, and it would just we would ask it questions and it would just sort of move and sometimes pretty fast and come up with some really interesting stuff.
So
So
there
it
was
must
definitely a
have been,
board with all of the letters of the alphabet.
yes, and there we had a very beautiful board that Eve, who's an artist, um, and was one of the founders of the community, painted.
Hmm.
I wish I knew where that was now. I don't know, did we send it to Hamilton College with everything else?
Oh, yeah. We'll
Anyway,
have to ask Eve. She might know.
yeah. So anyway, it was very beautiful. And then we had like a planchette with a little like wires and a little hole that would go to, you could it could land on different letters. And then
Mhm.
when we did it like in the picture that Zia sent you, when we did it with a larger number of people, we had like these sticks connected to it so that a bigger bunch of people could do it.
Mm.
And the way I remember it is we were just having a conversation that it wasn't just that we didn't have a lot of jealousy amongst ourselves, but that some, some of us were talking about how, it's a thrill, it's kind of a thrill to know or to see our partners having fun with each other. It signified that that our lives were going well, that there was security in our family and love um and um so kind of more of a warm it does my heart good. Um
Mm.
um there's a Yiddish word for it and I'm trying to remember. Zia, you might know because you speak German. The word for oh, Naches, is that it?
Office.
Nach I don't know, but there's a word that means your heart warms, knowing that these people are doing well or that they're doing well with each other. It's a heartwarming kind of a feeling. So we were
Mm.
talking about that, and we were saying, hey, there's not really a word in English for this feeling, especially in the context of not non-monogamous
Mm.
relationships, right? And we said, oh, let's ask the board.
Mhm.
So Zia, what
What
do you,
was the question that you asked? Oh, sorry.
oh, I think it was just the question was just, can we have a word that means the opposite of jealousy?
Uh-huh.
Can we have a word that describes the emotion that is the antonym of jealousy, is what's written in the
Mhm.
session. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because the alphabet boards are the transcript is at Hamilton College, but you can't access it on their website, right? Zia?
They've made it accessible, but yeah, I
Oh,
have a photocopy of the original handwritten
oh,
one.
My
Yeah,
God.
so
The original handwritten notes
yeah,
from
they were
the
all
alphabet board
handwritten.
session.
Yeah.
yeah, because
Wow, that is
whenever
so
we did a
cool.
board session, there'd be a scribe, and
Right.
the person would write the question and the
And
answer.
it was usually Fur because she had really good handwriting.
Mm,
Yes.
nice.
So
Yes.
was it fur? Is it?
Yeah, it looks like her handwriting from, yeah, yeah, I think
Oh,
it was. Yeah.
that's so sweet. Fur lives here now.
Yeah,
I've,
she's Sherry's downstairs neighbor.
yeah, I
Oh,
live on a little farm in Hawaii, and I made a little apartment downstairs that Fur lives in. So
that's wonderful. You stayed in
yeah,
touch. You lived together. That's so cool.
yes.
Mm. So, and I love that the records are all, on the Hamilton College database or website. And those who are watching who are curious, they can see the blog that Zia and Shari co-wrote on whatiscompersion.com, and there's a link there to that original transcript of that alphabet board session, so people can actually see exactly what happened. But that's what we're describing now. It's that question of what is the antonym of jealousy, and then the board said compersion.
Compersion
Do you
and
remember how fast it spelled it out? Like, was it
yeah,
a
I do remember that it was fast. I remember it was like COM and you could see that, right? Because compassion, it's there's companion, communal. COM is sort of a root for um group po groups doing something, positive together, right? Or the feeling of empathy for other people and stuff like that. So it went COM and and then P, and then the rest of it, I remember that the rest of it just went really fast after that. Like it was COMPERSION, you know.
Oh my gosh.
And
Wow.
But that
the
is, it's kind of amazing, even if it's not some kind of entity like directing us or something like that. I mean, no matter how you explain it, it is kind of amazing that and that happened a lot, you know, where it would go fast. So,
Yeah, the transcript says that it was a group of 15, and we were trying to remember who was on the board for this session. So I don't know how many, I don't know if all of the 15 of us were on there or if it was a smaller subset, but anyway, we did
it was
both, but
probably
mostly
15.
small because that was more efficient.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the two of you were there.
Yeah.
Wow. And how did you feel about the word, about that response?
I loved the word. I mean, the word, as soon as I heard it, it felt right. Like, and maybe just because it had that COM in it or something. I don't know. It just seemed like it fit really well. It made a lot of sense and even had a good, like, if somebody who studied linguistics was going to look at it, it had a good root and a good feel, or it made sense. So I liked it.
Mhm. What
Yeah.
about you, Zia?
Well, yeah, I just joined the commune a few months before, so everything was like new to me, and this whole board stuff was like, woo. But I was like, sounds good. Yeah, I don't have a memory of the reaction at the time, but
So is it a trip for the two of you to think like, oh my gosh, like now there's book about compersion, like people have been using this word that you were part of creating, part of birthing.
Yeah. It's totally trippy for me. I love it because there's a certain amount of sentiment among people who were in the commune and even who have written about it, and also like the documentary that was recently made and previous stuff where some of the less positive aspects are being discussed, which is good and fine and should happen. But I also feel like it was kind of my life's work in a way. You know, I didn't end up going to college then. I mean, I went back to school later and now I'm a therapist, but I was always a real sciencey, nerdy. That's my underlying personality. And and I always, and this is part of why I joined the commune, kind of had a desire to make some kind of contribution in that area.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
um, so I love what you're doing. I'm so appreciative of what you're doing. Oh, you know, because it is, I do feel like it's important um, and related to larger things. You know, there's stuff on the personal level of why it's important that people have, just like LGBTQIS, um,
say
two, is it
plus.
two spirit,
Yeah.
Q2?
Yeah.
Anyway, all of that. Um, you know, the fact that people can have more choice in relationship and have language to describe their experience, I think is such a beautiful, wonderful thing. Um, and so when I say my life's work, I don't mean like I'm the only one but
Mhm,
um, you know, and I when I read about it, what people are doing polyamory now and the research that's happening, I'm like, wow, you know, people taking it to the next levels, and you know, I love that. But
mhm,
I rather not look back on my past than of what I did for till I was like 33, and think, oh my God, it was a horrible cult that was only negative,
mhm.
and and I should feel cringy and ashamed for the rest of my life. I rather think that there was a positive contribution made. So yeah, I
Mhm.
feel great about it, and I love the pioneers that are researching and experiencing and taking it forward now. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think how it came out was we had a friendship going with Ryan Nearing, who started the publication Loving More
Mm.
and had a series of polyamorous conferences in the mostly in the late 80s to 90s, I think, and then she stepped out of it. But she's the one that really took the word out into the polyamorous community. So I think our friendship with her really helped
Mm.
release it out
Yeah,
beyond
she could
us.
actually be
Yeah,
a good person to talk to if she wanted to. Yeah.
yeah.
What's her name?
Ryan Nearing.
Okay.
She lives in Boulder, I think, still, or I don't
Oh,
know
I
where.
thought they lived in Oregon.
Oh, maybe they.
Oh. Yeah, well, I might contact you for her information.
Ryam, Ryam, and then Nearing, and she's on Facebook. So
Uh-huh. Okay,
yeah.
great. Yeah, it's so funny to just like revel in the fact that our destinies are so intertwined in a
I
way.
know.
Like you definitely made this enormous contribution because, as I've always felt and said, I think having a language to describe emotions and experiences that many people don't think are possible to have, I think it opens up so many possibilities for people. Like just having a word can be so validating for people who already have experienced compersion. Like a lot of people, since I've published my book and started talking about compersion more broadly, a lot of people have contacted me and said, like, oh my God, I'm so glad to know that there's a word to describe what I've been feeling. I feel like I'm less of a weirdo. I feel like more validated, more just like more okay as a person now that I have this word. And so the fact that you came up with it and that people like Ryan just disseminated it and popularized it, and that now like there is more research about it and there is such a thing as, the idea that compersion is possible, it exists. It doesn't mean that it's the only thing that people feel and experience in non-monogamy, but that it's a possibility. I think
Yeah.
that also like has a big role in dismantling mononormativity, like just kind of like the social assumption that monogamy is the only way, because that
Hmm.
assumption often rests on the assumption that jealousy is the only thing that people can feel in
Right.
non-monogamy.
Yes.
Mm. I think
Yeah.
it's such a
Yeah.
powerful concept.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's usually presented or thought of, I think, non-monogamy as on the positive side, there's the lust of, variety, sexual variety, that's the plus side. And the negative is, oh, you have to share with other people, but not it, yeah, but then if people realize, oh, yes, and the sharing can actually also have a rewarding to it, not just the sexual variety, and can bring people who aren't sleeping with each other necessarily, maybe they are, maybe they're not, but can bring people closer to each other because of that shared bond that they have. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I love it. I it's so I would love to hear, I don't know if you want to put this in this interview or not, but I'd love to hear more about how you first heard about compersion and about your research and
Mhm.
maybe a
Mhm.
little bit.
Sure. So I've always been a poly-hearted person. I think from a very young age, I never really felt that monogamy was made sense, like the real paradigm of, oh, if you meet someone that you like, then you can't be with anyone else and you shouldn't be attracted to anyone else. Like that just always felt wrong in my system. So I was always fascinated with people who live outside of that norm. And when I decided to study psychology, I was like, I want to really like figure out more like what does it take for people to be non-monogamous in a harmonious way? Like what are
Mhm.
the conditions? What are the factors that promote it? And synchronistically, I went to a conference in 2014 that was called the Future of Monogamy and Non-Monogamy.
Mhm.
Was being put together by Dave Dorschall. I can't remember how you pronounce his name, but he's one of the poly activists in the Bay Area. And that conference had a workshop about compersion. And that was literally my first time hearing the word. And it was like a light bulb went on. I was like, oh my God, compersion. Okay, like the antonym of jealousy, feeling actually happy and on board.
Mhm.
Partners are sharing intimacy with someone else, like turning towards rather than turning away, keeping your heart open rather than closing it.
Mhm.
That's the magic sauce. Like that's the deciding factor that makes
Mhm.
it work. And oftentimes people say, like, well, you shouldn't put pressure on people that they should feel compersion all the time. And I agree. Like, non-monogamy can work when there's just enough, I think, benevolent neutrality or
Mhm.
enough what I would call attitudinal compersion. Like, sometimes people are not feeling it, but they sort of
Yeah.
act in accordance to a compersive set of values. Like, they support their partner being with other people rather than try to sabotage it like they're not like in complete distress about it.
Right.
Um, so yeah, like that light bulb moment just was enough for me to say, like, I want to be able to understand what compersion is and what it takes to
Mhm.
experience it. So that set me off on my PhD research about it, which
Wow. And is it true? I mean, I've heard maybe like a year or two ago, and I wanted to communicate with this person, but I never did. But um, that they have a committee now in this the
the
APA,
American,
the
yeah,
American Psychological Association for non-monogamous relationships or something with relationships.
yeah,
And they were actually I just remember they were talking something about um interventions like therapeutic interventions to help people um open up more to compersion or to like what are the factors, studying the factors that create more compersion. I mean, I would love to read your PhD stuff.
mhm,
Because
mhm.
that fascinates me too, all of the psychological aspects, and as a therapist, I do run into non-monogamous people now, and I think in the past it would be like, are you non-monogamy friendly or not? Just like are you friendly towards people of different sexual orientations and you know couples therapists and stuff like that, what are their attitudes going to be, and sometimes people might want to work on compersion, you know
Yes. Oh my gosh, I have a whole coaching practice where that's the majority of what I do. It's people
hey,
coming
cool.
to me and asking me, like, how do I experience more compersion? That's the question
Wow,
I've heard the
I
most.
love that. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
good. I love what you're doing. Yay.
We're so connected. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to one interview you did recently where she had like the six conditions of what helps compersion flourish, and the one that I know I struggled with jealousy in my I'm in a relationship right now that's monogamous, but my partner wants to open it up, and we tried a threesome, and I got jealous and went through the word you use is comper struggle, because I also experienced compersion toward this our partner.
Mhm.
And the one of the requirements that we didn't have is a support system. We
Mm.
didn't have any other threesomes we could talk to about it, and or we didn't think about going to a coach or therapist, but maybe that would have helped.
Well, it's so interesting that you're bringing that up because, like, yeah, community and having a non-monogamous support system is one of the conditions that really help compersion flourish. And at Kerista and the commune, you had that. You had this context of having a whole community of people who practice non-monogamy and who you could turn to for support. And it was a whole different social and community context. So I think that has a big, big impact on the ability of people to be happy in non-monogamy is like, do they feel well surrounded and supported, or are they in a mostly mononormative
Yeah.
context?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone that was like saying positive things to me about it. They're all like critical. So I was like,
Mm.
so it didn't work out.
Yeah. Yeah. Having support um and I think also like kind of related to that is um there's just so many like social societal pressures, and that gets to the thing I was talking about in the beginning of you don't want to have a cult, but it's almost like, you have to shut out a certain part of the outside world and feel like we used to have this term culture sculpture,
Oh
which
my
I
gosh.
also really like. I know
Mm.
it's a little dorky, but I sort of like it.
Get a
But
good ring to it.
yeah, it's like there's support at like your friendship network level that can help. And there's also still like this larger culture that you're in and you're aware of and you can't really get away from, and um and that puts a pressure on the situation, You
Mhm.
still have family members, you still have everything you see on TV and on everywhere, of what's being seen as normal. So
Mm.
it's hard, I think, but I think it's getting easier. Like I think if we were to try to do it again now, there's so many tools that we would have, ways of communication that would have be a lot better than how we were then. We're really just awkwardly, as Zia said,
The early
fumbling
days.
around with wanting something different. And yeah, we made a certain amount of mistakes and you
Mm.
know, but I'm
Yeah.
so happy it wasn't all for nothing and that it's just people are taking the baton and moving forward.
Yeah, you were trailblazers.
Yeah.
You were carving a path where there was none. So I think,
Yeah.
like everyone owes you such a debt of gratitude for doing this work and going into the unknown without a roadmap.
Yeah.
And I mean, still to this day, there isn't like, like an authoritative roadmap, but there is this explosion of research and this explosion of resources and books and media and podcasts that do give people a sense that they're not alone and that there are some, best practices and things that you should focus on. And here are
Yeah.
some common blind spots and pitfalls that you should look for.
Right, right.
Yeah, exactly. So much more resources and tools and counseling, coaching and
Mhm.
uh yeah, that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Mm.
It's so heartening too, in the world we live in today where we might fear that certain aspects are going a little bit backwards as far as personal freedom and uh, uh, bodily autonomy and all the things. Um, but yet there's still it's still also going forward. We can't
Yeah.
despair that we're going totally back to uh,
Mhm.
the dark ages. So I'm happy about that. And that institutions like the American Psychological Association and universities where people can do a PhD and study this is still happening. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm so grateful for that. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So, as we get ready to close our interview, is there anything else that you want to share about compersion or about your experience at Kerista or just your experience since Kerista has been, like dissolved?
I think it's positive for us in the who are in touch with each other because it's everybody's very interested in what we're doing. So they want to report about where is this going? Are we actually going to get things spread out further? Like my goal is let's see if the official dictionaries will pick this up. So I what I the little bit I learned from reaching out to Merriam-Webster and Oxford was, well, it needs to appear in a website not connected to the community that originated the word. It has to appear in enough other places that it starts to emerge. I don't know, as a new word to be published in our official dictionary. So that was my hope, is that we set the record straight, we get the dates right, whatever little things are still not quite right about where the word came from,
Mhm.
and that the word is out there, and that's going to have a positive effect.
Oh, yay, thank you so much. Absolutely. And I also have emailed the Merriam-Webster a few times, and they still keep on saying it's not used widely enough yet, but they will keep on their case because it should be getting there. Like everyone is
Yeah.
talking about compersion now.
Yes, I think it's getting there, especially with it being studied uh,
Mhm.
by official people.
Scholars.
People,
Yes,
letters behind their names.
people with the credentials, with the
Yeah,
creds.
yeah. Sometimes
Uh,
it takes.
the only other thing I wanted to share is to just encourage anyone who's watching this that if you don't identify with the culture that you're surrounded by, it's okay. There's lots of other options. You're not weird. And you're not weird if you do want to do a traditional lifestyle. Nobody's weird. Everybody, we're different. We have different needs at different times in our lives. And yeah, so go for it and explore and experiment and make your own mistakes. Well, they're not really mistakes, they're learning experiences, but you know, yeah, and just don't be afraid to try new things. Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you. That is so healing, such a beautiful, healing and validating message. That is the one that I also, is very dear to my heart. And that's why relationship diversity is so important to me.
Yes.
So thank
Yes,
you for
exactly.
saying that.
All
So for
right.
anyone who wants to read more about the origin of compersion, Zia and Shari have a beautiful guest blog on my website, whatiscompersion.com. It's called Compersion Etymology. And that's where just really like the straightforward story of the alphabet board and the birth of the word compersion is so wonderfully described. And there's a link to the Hamilton Library online where you can read the transcript of the alphabet board session. And yeah, I'm so glad that the two of you came to my book launch. We got to meet and we got to birth this project so that we can set the record straight about where the word comes from. And hopefully it can continue being spread and touch many hearts and minds in the future.
Yes. Amen.
I
More
dream of
more
the
positive
compersion.
vibes out there.
Exactly. Imagine, if there was more compersion in the world, it would be a more
Yes.
beautiful world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be a little bit better.
Yes. Well, thank you so very much for your time today. It was so great to get to
Yeah.
connect.
Thank you so much. It was great
Yeah.
talking to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Marie, for all you do. We
Yes.
appreciate it.
Likewise, I love how our hearts and our lives are connected.
Yes.
So
Uh,
fun to look at that. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.
all right.